everyone, RogueGold here. Welcome back to The Division 2. And today, I've got some interesting stuff that I would like to go through. Over the past week or so, but then specifically this morning and what pushed me to make this video, there have been a lot of weird communications coming out of Massive Entertainment, the studio that founded and continues to lead development on the Division franchise. And although on paper what they are saying is very good for us Division fans, there's a lot of good Division stuff on the way. Amidst all of the turmoil that Ubisoft as a company has been going through for, many years now, it's led a lot of people to be very skeptical and concerned. So, in this video, I just want to break down what is going on, what people are saying, and ultimately present all of the evidence to you guys so that you can make your own conclusions. So, let's get right to it. If you enjoy updates on not just the Division games, but the context behind them, what is happening behind the scenes, then be sure to subscribe, as I always like to keep you all up to date on stuff like this. As we dive in, shout out and thank you to our channel members. Your support gives me the ability to cover all corners of the Division universe like this, so thank you so much for that. But, without further ado, let's get right to it. Alright, so this is where all of this began. Just a few minutes ago, Massive Entertainment, which again is the studio that has led development on the Division franchise since before 2010, when this thing was all conceptualized, they posted this statement. Let's take a look at it right here. As part of our ongoing evolution and long-term planning, we have recently realigned our teams and resources to strengthen our roadmap, ensuring our continued focus on the Division franchise and the technologies, including Snowdrop and Ubisoft Connect, that power our games. To support this transition responsibly, we introduced a voluntary career transition program, giving eligible team members the opportunity to take their their next career step on their own terms, supported by a comprehensive package that includes financial and career assistance. Massive Entertainment remains fully committed to our roadmap and to creating great experiences for players around the world, including the Division 2, the Division 2 Survivors, the Division Resurgence, and the Division 3. These projects continue with great strength, focus, and ambition, and we look forward to sharing more in the future. So, confused yet? Yeah, that is kind of the general response that I've seen people giving this so far is like, okay, did we need to post this? What exactly does this mean? As I said, on the surface, this is good news for us Division fans. As they say, their main and continued focus right now is the Division franchise, including these 4 distinct projects: 2, Survivors, Resurgence, and 3. But if you read between the lines, that's where things seem to get a little bit weird. Just for a little bit of context and background, if you don't know really what's been happening with Massive over the past few years, from, let's say, the very early 2010s up until 2019 or 20, Massive Entertainment was either entirely or majorly focused on the Division franchise. Building and releasing the Division 1, building and releasing the Division 2, building and releasing Warlords. At some point, they started an incubation project for the Avatar game, Avatar Frontiers of Pandora, that released in, 2023? But from the Division 1 up through Warlords, Division was their focus. After Warlords, that is when the Star Wars project spun up. The core people that created the Division moved over to work on that. The Division 2 team continued to dwindle and get less and less resources, and that eventually is what led us to having to go through a 15-month content route, while the remaining people on the Division 2 at Massive, which was a very small team, had to outsource and work with a new development team at Ubisoft Bucharest to provide the work power and resources to build new content. In those years, we have now seen both Avatar and Star Wars release, right? Of course, the release of Star Wars Outlaws is what then allowed the team to transition back to the Division, start working on the Division 3, but it was not clear where exactly all of Massive's resources were being placed after the release of those 2 major titles. On the one hand, Avatar recently released that they're actually doing a brand new paid expansion for the game coming this December to align with the release of the new Avatar movie that's coming out. From a business perspective, I think that makes a lot of sense, and I think a lot of people expected that they would try to align content releases with the movies back before this game even came out. But it was definitely surprising to hear that they still had enough people on Avatar to work on and release a paid expansion. We also know, I covered this in videos a while ago, that at some point there was a new unannounced project happening at Massive, again after the release of Star Wars Outlaws. So it seemed as though the main focus of the studio was on the Division 3, as well as this new project. Well, from my perspective, my interpretation of this little press release that they've put out, it seems as though that is no longer. Aside from any small teams that may be working on Avatar, I think they're still putting out like Switch 2 updates for Star Wars Outlaws. What they say very clearly appears that the main studio's focus is on the Division franchise, right? The various projects that are going on under that umbrella, as well as the teams that they have always had there working on their Snowdrop engine and Ubisoft Connect. So once again, I reiterate, for us Division fans, this is kind of what we've been asking for years. Massive is recommitting to the Division franchise. This is now their primary focus, again, across these various different projects. But that doesn't change the weirdness of this press release, right? And this central paragraph is really kind of what gets me, because what this sounds like to me is that we were not able to find positions for all of these people that we had built up over the years to work on, 2 AAA games with Avatar and Star Wars. And so some, who knows how many, have likely been let go, or in their terms have been able to take a voluntary career transition to essentially move on to other things, is again what I read from this. I also found out that less than an hour before this was posted, it was announced that Ubisoft Red Links is going through layoffs right now, or at least discussions to potentially lay people off. Up to 60 positions are in jeopardy. Now, obviously, Red Links is not massive, but they do have a connection to the Division. This is a studio, I believe, in the UK, or in Finland, sorry. It says right there in Helsinki. And if you go to their games page, again, we've also talked about this in videos past, they were actually one of the more recent support studios to help out with the Division 2. It says that we have collaborated on the live game with Ubisoft Romania and Massive Entertainment. It seems as though that partnership is over, though previously it says we are collaborating. This is now in the past tense. And again, they have put out their own press release talking about how they're going to have a strategic reformatting or refocus on smaller screens, right? They're going to work on mobile games and stuff like that. And this is certainly not the first round of layoffs that Ubisoft studios have experienced. If you've been following the Ubisoft saga, the company has been in a lot of turmoil. That led to Tencent having a buyout of some of their IPs, notably Far Cry, Rainbow Six, and what was the last one? Oh, Assassin's Creed, of course. Just recently, they actually announced the first step in that whole transition to where the new subsidiary that's going to be handling those things under the leadership of both Ubisoft and Tencent was announced. I want to iterate and emphasize that this is not involving the Division. This is not Division stuff, but it does say that Vantage Studios is their new thing that is going to be handling those brands. And that Ubisoft's goal, once again, we talked about this in a past video, is to kind of funnel each of their studios into these creative houses to work on IPs more directly. They say their goals are to facilitate stronger and deeper connections between developers and players. Could just be a lot of corporate speak, and we don't really feel that on our end, but we'll have to wait and see. The point is, Ubisoft, of course, from their own financial choices over the years, is constricting. They're having to slim things down, let people go, and a lot of the rest of the industry is as well. Of course, during COVID, business boomed for gaming. There were a lot of investments made that once that kind of wore off, and, money mattered again, layoffs across the industry have been prevalent for the past 18 months, 2 years. And so even though Massive does not outright say that in this statement, they try and say that this is a voluntary career transition program, which, to be fair, if they are needing to do layoffs or let people go, it is great that they're offering a package that includes financial and career assistance. I think that's about the best thing you could do in that situation. But it would not surprise me if in the coming days or weeks we hear about people being let go or leaving Massive. Part of the reason why this also stood out to me and a lot of people is that there was another post from them a few days ago that was quite odd. This one right here. I didn't choose to do a video on this because it just, again, it was weird, but it says, "Agents, we've seen the rumors that Julian Garrity has left Ubisoft. That's far from true." For any who don't know, this is Julian right here. He was the associate creative director on The Division 1 as far back as 2013-14. He was then the creative director on The Division 2. After Warlords released, he then moved on to Outlaws, but again, as we talked about earlier, once that game came out, came back to The Division to be the executive producer for the entire franchise and to start working on The Division 3. So, allegedly, there were rumors that he had left, but that is not true. Julian is still with us as executive producer for The Division franchise, leading the creative vision for The Division 2, Resurgence, Survivors, and The Division 3. We can't wait to share what's ahead. But if you look down to the comments, a lot of people, including myself, were saying, we hadn't heard of that, right? First I'd heard of anything. Cannot say I heard that rumor. Pele was commenting there. Just, that's a weird rumor to have to debunk. It's just odd, right? This post specifically, and then followed by this one today, it's what's going on here behind the scenes? Once again, I want to reiterate that it is great that they're publicly committing to the Division franchise, saying that that is their primary focus right now, but something just feels off. You know what I mean? And again, with this Julian situation, nobody had heard rumors that he was leaving. I even tried to search it up online. The best I found was like a forum post that somebody put out like a day before this statement saying he had left, but there was like no evidence. They weren't like a reputable figure within the industry. The only thought I had is that maybe this was preemptive to try and get ahead of rumors that might come out, given that recently someone in Julian's position essentially had left Assassin's Creed after 20 years, and so maybe they thought that rumors were going to spin up that Julian had left the division as well, but as they say, that's not true. And so yeah, that's kind of where we stand, folks. I just wanted to go over all of those different points. I'll leave you off with this. In the present moment, things are looking quite good for the division. We've got more content coming to us than we've had on the docket in years. We've got multiple teams working at multiple different studios on multiple projects, and that's great stuff. I'm beyond excited for Survivors, especially given the news we learned yesterday. I'm amped for the Division 3. But just be warned that in the coming weeks, months, even years, Ubisoft is still in a pretty tumultuous position, and for however long Massive is still under Ubisoft's control, there could be weird things that happen. So stay vigilant, but that's what we know for now. Well, folks, that's everything that I've got for you in this video. As I said, just kind of wanted to walk you through what has been going on recently, present the evidence, and now I would love to hear what conclusions you all have reached. How do you interpret some of these odd statements that Massive have been putting out lately? What do you think about the state of the industry and Ubisoft as a whole? Whatever you're thinking, leave it down below. Would be very curious to hear it. That is just about going to do it for me today, though. Thank you all so much for watching. I'll catch you back soon. RogueGold.